I think that we are live now at the Vernon Salon series. Um, Welcome. My name is Anne Rainwater, and this series has been going for about actually it's been almost 5 years at this point. Oops, and I don't want to have we are live now at the. I don't want to have my own sound going on in the background. We're we're new on some of these technical online things, but anyway, here we go. The Vernon Salon series has been going since January of 2016. It is a monthly concert series that previously was run out of my apartment in Oakland. Now we've gone virtual, and so everything is over Zoom and over YouTube Live. I am very, very, very pleased and honored to bring you my friend Alex Taite tonight. I'm gonna read you a little bit about Alex and his bio. He is a tenor. Alex is also an Oakland native who is a career musician, educator, and performer. He directs the Chorus Eclectic as well as the San Francisco Boys Graduate Level Ensemble. And he has sung with the San Francisco Opera Choir for the last 12 years, which I just found out tonight. I didn't realize it had been that long. So he has quite an impressive bio. He is a wonderful person. His program tonight is a portion of his one-man show, which focuses on the Negro Spiritual, its evolution, as well as its influence on American music. And so what we'll be doing throughout this is I'll be monitoring comments over the YouTube Live chat, so you can send me some questions. And if you want to stay on afterwards, we're going to have a little Q&A with Alex as well. Last but not least, very important in order to support Alex, and especially important during this time, you should see some PayPal and Venmo links at the bottom of your page there. So please feel free to donate generously throughout the evening. And without further ado, I'm going to pin the video for Alex and turn it over to him. All right, Alex, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Anne. I appreciate kind words. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Taite, and I'm going to be sharing with you all some of the pieces of music that I have arranged that over the course of my life, over the last 20 years or so, to share with you a little bit about how the Negro Spiritual has evolved and has flourished in American culture and influenced all of the music that we know today. I would like to start, though, with a song that a lot of people presume is a spiritual, but is not. This song was actually written more as a hymn than a spiritual. We'll talk more about the differences as we proceed. But here is my late grandmother's favorite song, as she would have sung it in her church. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. That song has been sung for hundreds of years, and it is part of what a lot of people presume to be the spiritual genre of music. It is not. It was written by a white man, a former slave trader. He the rumor has it he was on a slave trade, and the storm picked up and he was almost washed overboard, and he prayed to God, if you get me out of this, I will change my ways. And he did. He joined a monastery and became a monk thereafter, and wrote this song, Amazing Grace. And all of the verses, there's several other verses that I won't belabor you with. But that song is not actually a Negro spiritual, though it has been adapted by the Black church as part of their heritage, as part of their culture. I think mainly because of the really powerful lyrics in the words. And that is what has drawn me to the spiritual my whole life, is the depth of profound language in the spiritual, and yet its simplicity. The spiritual has a lot of repetition. It repeats a lot of the same words over and over again in slightly differing ways, to really drive home a really profound idea, but using so few words over and over again. The Amazing Grace song has a lot of lyrics in it, and they're not really repeated as the spiritual does. What I want to share with you next is an example of the Negro spiritual where it repeats. There's words over and over and over again that happen more than once. And this is one of the first arrangements I ever wrote. And I hope you enjoy it. This is Let Us Break Bread Together. Let us break bread together on our knees. Let us break bread together on our knees. I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun. Oh Lord, have mercy on me. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. The Negro Spiritual is simple. There's just words repeated over and over and over again. But it's that way because of the circumstances from which it grows. It grew, I should say. The African culture, before it was pillaged and ravaged by the slave trade, was based around music. And we in America don't really have a way to relate to this culture of music, this culture that's steeped in music, this culture that uses music as a way of expressing themselves to one another for every event. We play music in the background at events. We sing happy birthday maybe together, or he's a jolly good fellow, or Old Lang Syne, right? So these are the moments in our culture where we have music as part of the tradition. But in Africa, music is part of their culture in a much broader sense. And it's not a passive experience. It's an interactive experience. It's something that everyone gets together and everyone sings all at the same time. And they do it for birthdays, but they also do it for funerals, and they do it for graduations, and they do it for commencements, and they do it for anything, coming home, leaving home, going hunting, coming back from hunting, whatever. Like, everything has music sort of baked into its process. And in America, we never developed that sense of community around music. But it was such a profound part of their culture that when they were brought here into America, it never left. It was what they were. And it was the way that they were eventually able to create a sort of a semblance of the community, even in the dire circumstances that they were involved in. So this next song is one of my favorites. This is Motherless Child. This song is kind of depressing and dreary, so I wrote an extra verse at the end to give it a little bit more of a hopeful ending, hopefully. Here is Motherless Child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. I'm a long way from home. I'm a long, long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I can't go on. Sometimes I feel like I can't go on. Sometimes I feel like I can't go on. I'm a long way from home. I'm a long, long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. And I'm alone. From home, I'm a long, long, long way from home. But sometimes I feel like I'm all wrapped in love. Sometimes I feel like I'm all wrapped up in her love. Sometimes I feel like I'm all wrapped up in her love. And I'm a long way from home. I'm a long, 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 long way from home. So, the Negro Spiritual grows out of arguably the most deplorable circumstances in human history. certainly one of them. But it started, this slave trade started with, it was inspired by the attempt to educate the savages, right? To bring the good news of the gospel to those that didn't know it. And it was this combination of kidnapping and indoctrination that created the circumstances for these spirituals. The words are simple because they didn't know the language. They didn't know how to read. They didn't know or understand necessarily all of the things that they were learning about. But the melodies are really powerful in their simplicity. They pull out all kinds of beautiful emotions just from having these repeated words tumbling over and over again through these harmonic changes that they were introduced to through the traditional hymns of the church. They were taught about these Bible stories, and they saw certain parallels in their own stories. They were read to, and they learned about the Israelites and their captivity, and how they, through Moses, were able to escape and flee. And that brought them no small amount of hope. And despite the fact that they were completely cut off from all of their previous culture and all of their previous comforts in life, they still managed to take this new information, this new religion that they were taught, and fold it into their understanding of how music works. And what you wound up having was people that would work and sing at the same time. And it was kind of a novelty for these slave owners. They're like, oh, wow, they're so happy. Look at them singing. But it was really more of them taking what they had and using it however they could to help create more of a sense of community, to be able to bear it, to be able to suffer through it. You can join in song with your brethren, with your sister, and it helps to lighten the load, even if just a little bit. So they learned about all these Bible stories, and they started to think, well, if this is taught as truth, perhaps it is not too far out of my own reach. Maybe this is something that I can strive for. Maybe this is something that I can hope for. This freedom, this crossing over, this new promised land, right? So I've got a little bit of that in this next song called Deep River. trod on. Deep river, my Lord, I want to cross over into campground. They fold in all of this new religion into their culture of music as experience, music as sharing, music as community. And it becomes normal for them to sing this type of music. It becomes normal for a slave and a group of slaves to be singing. This turns into a way for them to start adding in little messages. Once the Underground Railroad starts up and people start escaping, people start running, the Underground Railroad is a network of people that were using music to help them escape. And how do you escape? By using music. People are going to know you're singing. But if the people helping in the Underground Railroad are singing a song like Deep River, and you're in the Underground Railroad and you're approaching that little community, you can know that now's not a good time. You should stay in the water. You should get into the deep river. There's another song that I'm going to share with you that sort of speaks to that. And you can sort of use your imagination to figure out, okay, how did they use music to express ideas in the Underground Railroad? If you think about, okay, if I'm going to approach this house and I hear someone singing Deep River, I need to make sure that I'm looking out for the dogs, and I stay to the swamps and the water where my scent won't be picked up. There's another song that I want to share with you, Wade into Water. And it has a very similar connotation to it. It was a song that didn't start out with this meaning. They didn't compose these songs to have coded messages in them. But as they evolved over the several hundred years of enslavement, this music started to take on new meaning. And this new meaning was what helped them find ways of passing messages to one another during their escape. So as I play this next song, see if you can use your imagination a bit and figure out how this song might have sent a message to you while you were escaping enslavement. Trouble the water. escape, gone. And just like that, freedom. Well, sort of. The music never stopped evolving, even after freedom, even after emancipation, and after all of the Underground Railroad went through all of its things. The music never stopped growing. And it evolved from a way to keep community together, a way to hold on to one's heritage, into a way of expressing community within the most oppressive scenario you can put any human, into a way to put secret messages to people as they are taking their liberation into their own hands. And it continued to grow. And as these slaves became citizens, they were able to then worship sort of moderately the way they wanted. And they took this music that they grew up learning, that they worked with, and that they used to help them escape into the churches with them. And this was the birth of gospel music. And gospel and spirituals, while they share a lineage, are not the same thing. Many people confuse this one with the other. Spirituals predate the gospel. Spirituals then predate because the gospel then springs into blues. They take the music from the church and they put it into bars and speakeasies. And you have people like Scott Joplin, who's, taking music that was originally bluesy type of stuff, and you have this, right? This all is ragtime music that comes out of that genre. And then that springs out into more diverse forms of music, into jazz. And from the gospel blues era, you also have an offshoot into rock and roll. And from there, you can very easily see how the lines are drawn into every style of music that is fundamentally American. It all traces back to this rose among the muck that is the Negro Spiritual. I have one more, I have two more songs to share with you all. This next one is Give Me Jesus. And this is a reflection of how the spiritual has come to be an adaptation of the Christian faith. And that Christian faith is so just rock solid among these people that they can come up with these words, and no matter what the problem is, they can just say, but give me Jesus. That's all I want. I don't need any of the other things that are being thrown around or being kept from me, because you can't keep my faith from me. I heard my mother say, give me Jesus. So, I would like to leave you all with a message that no matter what you are going through, you can find a community through music. You can find a community through music in the people around you, in the music that you enjoy listening to by yourself. It doesn't have to be a community effort. You can sit alone in your living room and experience it by yourself. Or you can sing along with your favorite choir. Once we're all out of quarantine, I think there'll be a big explosion of people joining choirs and orchestras and such, because I think music is the way to create communities. I want to encourage all of you to vote. Please go vote. It's coming up. We have just a few more weeks, a handful of weeks left. And finally, I am only a musician. That is my only way of supporting myself. So if you would be so kind as to help me buy groceries this week, you can send a little donation, send some love my way with some $signs on it. I would be so appreciative of you. And finally, music kept evolving, and it always has something to say. I want to leave you with "Make Them Hear You," which I think is very fitting these days. We cannot idly sit by and let things just happen without speaking up for justice, without speaking up for love, without speaking up for equanimity. So I hope you are emboldened from this music to do just that.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. How justice was our battle, and how justice was denied. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Go out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them in our struggles we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you
Have a good evening, you all. Thanks for tuning in. And hope you all had some comments and questions while I was singing and playing. I think we can turn it right over into some Q&A for those of you who had anything to share.
Can you hear me, Alex?
I can hear you.
All right, great. Thank you so much for sharing your set. It was very moving, and I don't have many other words because it was just so wonderful to hear all in one
Thank
go.
you.
I'm going to leave the video spotlight on you so everyone can see you when you're answering questions. You're getting a lot of lovely comments. Wild applause. Bravo, bravo. Amen. Tender. He's an amazing talent. Love this man. Clap, clap, clap. Bravo. Everybody is so happy that they got to tune in. if you all can hear me out there as we're continuing our chat here, if anybody has any questions for Alex, please feel free to type them in the comments. I'm looking at the comments right now on the YouTube link, and oh, here we go. All right. Here's the first one, Alex. Would love to know your process of choosing songs and of arranging them.
Oh, well, that is a long process. I chose the songs to share with you all, because these are the ones that I have spent the most time working on, so I'm most familiar with them, and that is mainly what I use to choose songs. It's just from my own exposure to the spiritual. Part of my upbringing, when I was high school age, I joined a choir, the Lucy Kinchin Chorale, and this was my introduction to not only choral singing but to the Negro Spiritual, because that was sort of the main focus from the music that we would use. So a lot of these arrangements that I do are from the exposure that I got to this music through that chorus. So it is sort of like a lot of the Moses Hogan arrangements is what we sang. And I was just so overwhelmed with how powerful this music was that I was like, well, maybe I can make an arrangement or two, or 10, or 12, as it turns out. So that's my process. And then for picking them. And then my process for arranging them is I kind of liken it to the way I think it was Michelangelo described how he creates these sculptures. It's not something he builds, it's something he uncovers. It's something he explores and discovers it. It's not something that I create. It's something that I explore and discover in my exploration. The song already exists. I just sort of poke around until it makes sense. To get a little bit more technical about it, I take just the melody that's there, and I just start exploring harmonizations around that melody, and I try to do it in a way that expresses more of the emotional content of the music than just simply following part writing rules and chordal hierarchies stuff. So I'm a music theory nerd. I studied music theory in college, and so that's a big motivation for me, is to write things that make sense technically. And while that does influence where my exploration goes, I'm not always strictly following those rules. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. So when I was singing "Break Bread Together," you have So when I fall on my knees, and this part, with my face to the rising sun, that E flat major chord that happens in the middle of this F major song is not what you would typically hear in any sort of music, but it fits with the melody note there, and it is much more of like a text painting type of a thing, because all of a sudden you have this really bright E major chord standing out of this relatively heavy, dark F major space. So I kind of just sort of poke around and use my knowledge of music theory, but also try to make it true to the feeling of the song itself.
Thanks, Alex. There's a few more questions here. Someone wrote, you mentioned your grandma. Was she also influential to your love for spirituals?
Good question. My grandma, my dad's mom, was from Alabama, and I would spend summers out there, and we would go to church more than once a week, and we would sing in church, and the music that was there was similar to the spiritual, but it wasn't. It was much more heavily focused in the gospel vein. And so she was very encouraging of my exploration and love and for spirituals and the arrangements of them, but she wasn't necessarily influential in that sense. It was much more my exposure to Moses Hogan than to my grandma's church. That was the influence there.
Okay. Somebody else asked Alex, who wrote the song "Make Them Hear You"?
Oh, good question. Stephen Flaherty wrote the music, and the lyrics are by Lynn Aherns. This is from the musical Ragtime. Really powerful show. If you ever want to see a musical that has never lost its relatability to modern times, especially these days, Ragtime is a good one to see. I recommend it.
Anybody else out there listening and watching have any questions for Alex? He's ready and waiting.
I'm here. I'm an open book.
Open book. Oh, nice. Well, while we're waiting, if there's any more questions. Oh, somebody wrote, "Love Moses Hogan."
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Somebody else wrote, "Hi, Alex, love your music." Everybody's really kind of overjoyed, I think, to listen to your music. Somebody else, can you share a little of who Moses Hogan was in this context? I'm not as familiar with him. I know the name, but maybe talk about him a little.
Moses Hogan was probably the most influential choral music arranger of Negro spirituals. He's got a huge compendium of music. He died many years ago, but his choir, the Moses Hogan Chorale, was just stellar, and he wrote a lot of really, really rhythmically complex arrangements of these spirituals. All of these Negro spirituals have a very simple melody line. It's sort of maybe 3 or 4 notes. Most of it fits on the pentatonic scale. A lot of people talk about being able to play every spiritual on just all black notes on the keys. And so the melody itself, and a lot of times the rhythms within the melody, are not really all that complex, though they be quite profound. But Moses Hogan was able to write these spirituals in a way that added extra complexities by creating all these extra layers of texture with using the human voice as a way of laying those textures down. One of the greatest examples of Moses Hogan's genius in arranging is his arrangement of Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. And it's the regular melody, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, 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 and it's that over and over again. And the walls come tumbling down. But Moses Hogan creates this churning underpinning from all of the other voices. Joshua fit the battle, yes, the battle of Jericho, Joshua fit the battle. And it's all this rhythmic layering over one on top of another. And he does this on a lot of his arrangements. Also, his arrangement of Deep River, on the other hand, is extremely lush, and he creates all of these really jazzy chords with a lot of upper extensions. It's not just regular block chords, but it's got a lot of, upper extensions like a major 7 or a 9 in there. So there's all these extra super, super stacked chords, really complex harmonies in there that create a much more lush sound. And so really he was a trailblazer in creating music for sort of the layman's audience, but that was really complex for a really technical chorus. And he was still to this day, he's probably one of the greatest arrangers ever to live.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. I don't believe we have any more questions coming in right now. Maybe I'll take this brief pause to minute to gently remind everyone that they have the option of donating down below. There should be a link at the bottom right of your YouTube page there, and this really goes to help support Alex, help support all the artists on the series, and to keep this series going during this time. It's it is. Alex put it so much better than I could have ever put it. It's so important during this time, and for musicians who are especially earning so much of their income from performance. It cannot be underestimated how helpful this is during this time. I did miss one. Sorry. When is your next show?
We were just talking about that before we went live.
Yes.
I don't have. I mean, because of this lockdown, this has been my only performance, short of doing a few recordings here and there for gigs. But this is the only thing on the calendar for as far as I can see. Okay. I hope to be able to find more opportunities like this to do more live stream stuff, but for now, this is it. The choir I'm directing is going to be doing a sort of an album release party in December, but I won't be necessarily performing, but I'm going to be involved in that sort of presentation. So if you would like to find out more about that, we're doing a birthday celebration in December of Sagittarius composers. So it'll be a fun little exploration of music for the last 200 years. You shoot me an email and I'll get you that info.
A few more, Alex, if you're still game. With 2020 going the way it has been, do you believe that there will be a resurgence of musical/spiritual composition in musical art?
I really hope so. I'm fairly certain that if not new creations of music, there will be a renewed interest in exploring music from everyone. I know personally it's really hard to stay motivated to be creative when there is not really a whole lot of incentive to go perform it anywhere. There's no one's booking shows, no one's filling out or selling out houses. So it's kind of hard to stay motivated to create. But, what do they say? Shakespeare did most of his work during the Black Plague, right? So the hope is that, yes, this forced isolation will generate a lot more new art. And at the very least, we'll come out of here, everyone desperate to consume art again.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for a spectacular show, says somebody on the chat. You really have you really have to read the comments after all we're all done.
Oh, can't wait.
I've been taking notes and so you can read them all afterwards. But I'm gonna bring the video just back onto me for a second, Alex, if you're all right with that.
Sure.
And there we are. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It was a really wonderful experience. I'm so glad that you all got to be a part of it. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for supporting the Vernon Salon series. And I put this on every month. So we have a full lineup. Right now it's through December on my website. Next month will be a writer who will be reading a portion of her feminist horror fiction book that is due to come out soon, as well as and you'll get the ingredient list beforehand, as well as instructing you on how to make a specific cocktail that she created for her book.
Mm.
So it's kind of a little bit different than the regular music series that we do, but I thought it sounded fun, and she really likes Halloweeny, witchy kind of stuff, and it's right before Halloween, so it's perfect. But thank you, Alex. Thank you for sharing your music. Thank you for being here virtually. And for everyone listening now, if you would like to share this with other folks down the road, let's say somebody couldn't tune in tonight, the link will stay the same. So you'll be able to watch this afterwards. If you have any questions, you can always go to my website and look it up there as well. And so hopefully this music will be able to reach a lot more people than even were able to tune in tonight. So thank you again. It was really fun, and we'll catch you all soon. All right.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.